Hey guys. Hi. I've been told by my superior, Jason, that it is time to start teaching, which means there might be somebody watching right now. So, thanks for stopping by. It is jamplay.com. It is my house, but still jamplay.com. It is, week 7. Yep, checks out. Of practicing fundamentals. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And my name is Dave Brown. And I am here to teach you some things, hopefully, and hopefully get you playing and having fun. Fundamentals aren't the funnest thing, but they're so important. Sometimes they're fun. You know, it's all relative. Who am I to tell you what's fun or not? You decide. We're going to work on alternate picking and economy picking this week. Both picking is very important, and each of them have their own je ne sais quoi. No, I do know what it is. It's both of them have their merits depending on what you're doing. Alternate picking is really great if you're going down on the numbers and up on the ands. That's technically what alternate picking is. It tends to produce a consistent sound. Okay, so that's good. That's something to do. Plus, you're intrinsically tying your pick to the beat, so it kind of helps you keep track of the beat as well. Both pluses in my book. However, sometimes in order to do the correct stroke with alternating picking, you have to skip over the string and then do an upstroke. So you sort of miss motion. So it can be slightly inefficient in that sense sometimes, and that's where economy picking comes into play. And, economy picking is more, again, it's more to utilize the momentum of your hand that's already there. But again, alternate picking has really great tone, and it's great for keeping time. So both have their merits. We are going to explore both of them today. Jason is trying to write to me right now, so I hope we didn't already lose contact. But if you have any questions, you can send them over to him. I can. Okay. Yeah, how about right there? That's a good spot. I'm still new to this. We're still figuring it out. It's not exact science. Yeah. Okay. Now we're good. All right. So all the things I just said were. No, that's gonna be annoying. All the things I just said. Hopefully you guys heard me. But basically, moral of the story is alternate picking and economy picking both have their merits, and we're gonna explore both of them today because they're both a physicality playing the guitar that's worth taking the time to sort of isolate so that you don't. Because what ends up happening, I can't tell you how many players I've taught where they're not thinking about their picking at all. And they make things happen, and because that's, their reflexes, or, I'll ask them to play something in a very specific way, and it's like pulling hair, herding cats, to jumping through hoops, whatever metaphor you want, to get them to consistently use the same strokes every time. So, that being said, it's probably something worth practicing on its own, because if you're trying to do it in context of something like a really fast riff or whatever, your brain gets caught up with all the things, and so you might neglect the right hand. The right hand's always the most neglected of the two. So yeah, we did a little bit of right hand exercises before, but this is going to help your playing. You'll feel stronger because of this. So that being said, we're going to jump right in to the warm up. Again, it's alternate picking versus economy picking, but this is technically both. What this is right here, this is inside picking versus outside picking. So the concept is that if you have two adjacent strings, so alternating picking, let's say you were starting on a downbeat. What alternating picking is, we'll just start there, actually, really quick. I'd love to jump around and just hopefully everybody's on board for the ride. Because sometimes coffee takes my brain in many, many places. You know what I'm saying? So alternate picking, again, is completely tied to, and I'll even try and stand like this because it's all about the right hand today. So you probably get a better angle at my right hand. Like that. So the alternate picking is completely based upon the rhythm, right? So if we're just playing eighth notes, we're going down on the number and up on the and. Okay? Now it gets a little more complicated than that when you have different rhythms, triplets, and 16th notes, and all that fun stuff. We're not going to go too deep on that. We're going to keep it really simple with just 8 notes today, so we can kind of really compare and contrast the two. But that's the concept, okay? And so, again, it's great for keeping in rhythm, because if you're tapping your foot and even rocking back and forth, I know it looks ridiculous, but that means everything's kind of going with the grain. So picks going down, foot's going down, body's going down. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay? And because of that, like, again, if you get fancy, eventually, like, if you were to skip, downbeats, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, you would skip the motion, but your hand is non-stop. So it really helps keep track of time. Same concept with strumming, Essentially, your hand or your arm in this case, is a kind of a non-stop pendulum, and it's really just a question of when you apply and when you don't apply. And so it's a similar concept with alternate picking, okay? So alternate picking these 8 notes would say, if we're going back and forth between 2 strings, since the D string or the 4th string is on the downbeat in this very first example, you would go down on it. And then the G string or the open 3rd string, is on the and in this example. So that means you would go up. And so what happens is you would go down, up, down, up. So if you notice, you have to skip over the 3rd string to do the correct picking. So we're just going to let this go for a second. I'm going to put on the metronome. We're just going to do that. It's pretty straightforward. I'm sure you can hang. Here we go. 2, 3, and 4, and... I'll even go a little slower. Let's go to 60. Pretty exciting stuff. Very important though. And it's very important, we talked about this in previous weeks, but it's really important to observe what's happening in your hand. Don't just be passive, don't just go for it. You really want your hand to be as relaxed as it possibly can. And notice the motion is kind of coming from the wrist, okay? So there are going to be times where you're picking and, you might want to anchor, your pinky. I don't really recommend it too much, although when I go faster, sometimes it's nice. The important thing is that you don't have tension in your hand. And so if you feel tension building up, you need to take the time to just kind of shake it out. Be really conscious of that, because again, when you go to play harder stuff, you'll be so focused on what's happening with the left hand that the right hand will just go into autopilot, like fight or flight. Just gotta do whatever it takes to make it happen, kind of a scenario. And then it tenses up, and your playing probably suffers because of it. Good. Okay. So the opposite of that would be playing on the inside. So, it's essentially, this would be economy picking, because even though this 4th string is on the downbeat, ultimately, if you do this over and over and over again, maybe you could start with good intentions on the first one. But again, not again, because I haven't even told you yet. What economy picking essentially says is, what direction are you going? Just do that. Okay, so like for instance, if we're going from here to the 3rd string, you would do a downstroke through the 3rd string, because even though you just did a downstroke there, you're heading towards the direction of the 3rd string, so it makes sense to go just down again. So essentially the most obvious way to kind of look at this is, if you were to alternate pick open strings, you would go down, up, down, up, down, up, which is a really good exercise. It's great for right hand consistency and that, but it feels awkward. Whereas economy picking would say down, 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 down. And you would also include rest strokes, but we'll come back to rest strokes for a second. We're just going to do this inside picking thing. So again, the way we're going to approach this, exact same notes on the exact same beats, but now we're going to go up on the 4th string and down on the 3rd string. And the reason why they call it inside picking is because you kind of see in between those. What? So let's do that. So again, up on this, and if you tap your foot, that's really going to mess with you. So I want you to tap your foot, but hopefully if it screws you up, don't worry about tapping your foot. We're just going up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Again, still from the wrist, still relax. Let's go outside again. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down. I feel like an aerobics instructor. Let's go inside. Work on your night at the Roxbury head while you're at this. Mine sucks. I can't go any faster than that. I've tried. Failed. Okay, you get it. Cool. So that is, in a sense, the basic difference between the two. Okay? And the basic physicality of the two. There's a little more to it with the economy picking as we get into that arpeggio halfway down the page, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So we're going to do another little exercise. So for instance, the last two bars of that first line are going to be kind of walking up the neck in thirds. So instead of just playing open strings, now we're going to incorporate the left hand. But again, it was good to take the time to get warmed up with just the right hand first. Make sure there's no tension going on. And what we're going to do is play the same thing 2 times in a row. But the first measure is alternate picking, or down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And the second time you play, it's going to go up, down, up, down. So there's going to be a weird transition. Let's practice that. So again, what it's going to be is you're going to have your index finger on the 6th fret of the 3rd string, your middle finger on the 7th fret of the 4th string, right? So essentially what that is just like your root and your 3rd for like an A major chord, right? We're just going to walk up. So like here you would have the C shape, here you would have the E shape. Okay, so again, it's not split. I like to think of these as together or split. So it's together on 6 and 7. Your first finger is going to be the common finger. It's going to remain on the 3rd string the whole time. You're going to switch your middle finger for your ring finger. Your middle finger would still want to go down in the same place relative to your index finger, but it's split, so your ring finger takes that gap. Essentially, it's the difference between that and that, okay? But you move up a fret, and then you put your ring finger down, and then you move up 2 frets, and it's the same shape. So what we're going to do, let's just try with just alternating picking first, or down, up, down, up. So down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Do the opposite, the inside picking. Yeah, that last one would be outside picking. The inside picking, aka economy picking, would go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So what we're going to do really quick is we're just going to do, it's written like we're going to go back to back, and we're going to go back to back in a second, so nonstop switching between the two. But let's just kind of get them under our fingers. We'll play them 4 times each really quick. So I'm going to go down, up, 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 down, up. Okay? And so really it's just going to be the switch. I think I played them, well, maybe it was 4. I kind of zoned out for a second, but it's definitely 4. Maybe it was more. Bonus. So if we're going to do that, what's going to happen is the last thing you play is an upstroke here. So you can do 2 upstrokes in a row. You could do a rest stroke. Technically what a rest stroke is, and we're going to do this more in a second. But for me, it feels a little better, even though I'm doing 2 upstrokes in a row, it feels a little better to kind of like reconfigure. But technically a rest stroke is when the pick goes through the string and is physically stopped by the string above it or below it. Okay? So what we were doing prior are called free strokes. So the pick goes in the middle of the air, it's kind of hovering, not really doing anything, it's just hovering, right? Versus a rest stroke, which would go kind of, you push through to the point where the pick can't hold on anymore. Again, it's not like you're striking the thing. Sorry if that was loud. It's not like you're striking the thing. You're kind of just moving your hand, and your pick is trying to hang on for dear life till all of a sudden it can't. It hits that breaking point, that tension surface for the water, where it kind of just slips through, and then it just naturally lands on the string below it or above it. That's how passive your right hand needs to be. Okay, it needs to be loose, and it needs to just kind of flow through. I like to kind of picture the Wheel of Fortune thing. That little ticker thing, you're hearing it go tick, 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 just like you're playing a guitar, tick, 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 tick. But it's not trying to do it. It's the wheel that goes through it. It's your wheel that goes through it. You know what I'm saying? I like to get a little metaphorical. Hopefully you're still on board with me. But that's the idea. So, that being said, if you're going up, down, up, well, if you're going down, up, in theory, that last up right there, you can kind of go have a rest stroke. But because you have to kind of move your ring finger, it's going to get a little weird. So let's not hold you to that. It's just something to think about. Table it for a second. If you're already comfortable with rest strokes, feel free to give it a try. But what we're going to do is going to go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. What? Oh, I messed up. Let me do that again. Down, up, 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 down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay, so let's do it with a click. We'll go even a little slower because it's a little tricky on that transition. Here's 50. Boom, boom, boom. Essentially what we're just doing. Okay, so it's going to go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, to 60, and we'll go a little faster, we'll go a little longer. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up. When I say down, Okay, so that's it. That's the difference between inside picking and outside picking. Great little warm-up, kind of get it going. Now we're moving on to the alternate picking logistics, okay? So what this is, it's kind of setting you up for different four-note scenarios and how you would cross strings in that each different scenario. So again, this is back to alternate picking, so we're going down on the number and up on the and, okay? And yeah, basically, they're just little runs. We're going to go over the scale in a minute. Well, we'll go over it now. Let's go over it right now, okay? We're going to pull from a couple different scales today. So not just right-hand stuff, but basically right-hand stuff. If you don't know this major scale position, we're really going to focus on the top two strings, so like you don't have to completely digest this right now. But it's going to go index, middle, pinky, and that's on the 6th string. So 7, 8, 10, 7, 8, 10, 7, 9, 10, 7, 9, 10. So those middle strings are with your ring finger on 9. Then there's just 2 notes on the 3rd string. Just kidding. 2nd string. You got 8th fret with your middle finger and pinky on the 10th fret. Then it's going to go index finger, middle finger, and then pinky. So exactly like the 6th string and the 5th string. Those are all the same. So you got 7th fret, 8th fret, and 10th fret. And what we're going to do right now is we're just going to focus on these 5 notes right here. So you got your middle finger on the 8th fret of the 2nd string. You got your pinky on the 10th fret of the 2nd string as well. On the 1st string, you got index, middle, and pinky. Okay? So, again, each one of these is going to have a different scenario of combining a certain amount of notes per string and then crossing. So we're just going to go through each one of these really quick. The first one is going to go 8, and again, alternate picking. Down on 8, up on 7, down on 10, up on 8. And then you're just doing that 2 times in a row. So there's 5 of these, and each one of them is technically the same thing twice. So as long as you get the first 4 notes, that's it. All right, so you got down, up, down, up. Who remembers meow, 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 meow? Anyway. Random television ads, cat mix, some sort of thing. Anyway, so that first one's going to go again. Down, up, down, up. That's what we're going to play. We're at 60. And we're just going to do it for about a minute, minute and a half. And then we'll go move on to the second one. Not only does this develop your picking, but it's a really great way of, knowing your boyfriend or your girlfriend, parents, kids, anyone in earshot, really. This should get to them pretty quick. Dogs. Cats are indifferent. Cats don't care. Honey badgers. Let's do it 4 more times. Wonderful. Wasn't that one? Wasn't that wonderful? Yeah, you get the idea. Okay, so now we're going to start on the 7th fret of the 1st string, and then we're going to go. We got 2 notes on the 2nd string, so it's going to go down on 7, up on 10, down on 8, and walking right back up. Okay, so slower. Down, up, down, up, down. Okay, so that's the pattern. Let's do it for about a minute and a half. I don't know. I'm kind of guesstimating it. Sometimes I like to run the clock, but you know what? I'm feeling loose today. We'll play it by ear, okay? 3, 4, and. just confirmed that he's a bag of nuts. Great. That one's awesome. Great. Sweet. So the next one is going to go 3 notes on the first string. And then you have to roll over. So it's going to go down, up on 10 on the second string. Okay, so down. Okay, here we go. 3 and 4 and. So anyone just tuning in right now, this is not a broken record. We're just very meticulous here, and we need to play the same 4 notes over and over again. Okay, great. The next one is going to go 8, 7, 10, skip over and up on 7. Down, up, down. Playing with quarter notes for a couple more times just to get under the fingers. Last time, and then we'll do twice as fast. Here we go. And 1, 2. Turn 831. Right now. Just kidding, it's still 8:30. How is it still 8:30? There's 8:31. Okay, cool. One more, guys. Aren't you pumped? This one's going to start on the 10th fret of the second string. And you're just going to play 1 note on the first string. So it's going to go down on 10, up on 7, down on 10, up on 8. Two more times and then we'll do it twice as fast. Double time. You don't want that third string in there. I know some of you might be tempted to kind of replicate that awesomeness. Don't do that. Couple more times. 2 more times. There's that 833. Okay, great. Check it out. Not that was over intensive. We were doing that at 60 beats per minute just now. Obviously, it's going to provide a little more of a challenge if you're doing it a little faster, like, you know, just for giggles. Here, let me just show you. Here's like 100. That's not even that bad. For some of you, it might be. Basically, you need to go through and find your breaking point where, when you're practicing something like this, or things in general, there's 2 things that you want. So, like, for instance, if let me put it this way. If there are 2 types of mistakes, there are consistent inconsistencies and inconsistent inconsistencies. That's a mouthful. What does that mean? That means if you're playing something and you're going over the same thing all the time, and every single time you do that, when you come to that one note or a couple notes, you screw up, that is a very consistent inconsistency, okay? Whereas, if you're playing through a scale and every now and then you trip up, but it's in a completely different place, but last time you got it and next time you're going to be that much more mindful of it, so it's not going to be a problem, hopefully. That's an inconsistent inconsistency. Those are generally okay so long as you're not seeing those. You want to be about 90-95% accuracy, okay? So if you're seeing inconsistent inconsistencies and you're remaining about 90-95% accurate, that's good. Because you don't want, 100% accuracy is perfect. That's great. Awesome. None of you are perfect. I'm not perfect. Jason's close to perfect, but it takes some, the problem with perfect is you're in your comfort zone. You're not being challenged. And so a little bit of mistakes are just okay because that means you're kind of pushing the envelope slightly, which means you're getting stronger, okay? This is me working out. So basically the moral of the story is you don't want the consistent inconsistencies, because if that's the case, then there's a problem. You need to go target that area and figure it out, right? Yeah, so as far as what that rant was about, not really a rant, but good words of advice, I suppose, is when you're playing something like this, it's your job to be a nerd and go, okay, I'm working on this, and I'm going to write this out. I got a little spreadsheet going, and I can play exercise number 1 at 55 beats per minute. And I'm hoping by next week I'll be up to 60, and then 65. And that's how you kind of push the envelope on all this. Now, you can't, I'm sure I don't even do that with everything I do, but it is certain things it's good to really keep track of. And we're going to talk about kind of strategery, which is a reference to a famous Saturday Night Live skit, I believe, George W. Strategery meaning in lesson 10, a couple weeks from now, 3 weeks from now or something like that, we're going to talk about how to be efficient in your practicing and how to schedule and do that whole thing. So that's something we'll come back and touch upon. But until then, just something to think about for sure. Okay, so now we're going to get into the scale, okay? I already taught it to you. Let's just review it really quick. And then we're going to alternate and pick it. And the reason why I like this scale is not only is it like the home base, and it's really comfortable because there's no really stretching. It's all in a 4-fret span, so each finger is dedicated to a fret, and everything is groovy. But it's almost really consistent. It's almost 3 notes per string. But that second string screws everything up, which means your right hand, which is probably trying to predict the next step, is going to be screwed. Except not, because if you get really good at jumping over strings, in theory, it's nonstop. So, and that's the biggest disconnect with students in alternate picking right off the bat, is that sometimes you're like, wait a minute, did I just go down or I just go up? But like eventually, once you are super comfortable hopping over strings, it will be less about thinking about it and just naturally going with the flow. Something to shoot for. Okay, so again, this is going to go 7, 8, 10, 7, 8, 10. So it's always, guitar is pattern orientated. So the first string, fifth string, and sixth string are all going to be 7, 8, and 10s. Okay, so those are sort of pattern. The middle three strings are going to be 7, 9s, and 10s. So almost the same, but those are both, okay, those right there with your index ring and pinky. And again, the second string is going to have 2 notes on it, just 2 notes, 8 and 10. Okay? So if you're alternating picking this, it's going to go down, up, 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 down. Okay? So, and the way it kind of works out is that by the time we get all the way back down, it'll just work out perfectly into an infinity loop. So we're just going to practice it nonstop for a little while. Let's get warmed up. Right now, I got the click at 100. I'm just going to keep it at 100. We're going to play quarter notes through this. No, actually, let's go slower. So we're just going to play quarter notes with this. And let's just do downstrokes really quick through the whole thing, so you're not really worried about the picking. Let's just get the left hand up and running. For those of you who have never played this really before. So it's going to go down, down. Well, I should give you a fair start. You guys ready? Ha. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you got down, down. Let's do it one more time. And then we'll go slower. I always forget not to tap my foot. You should tap your foot, but when you're filming something, makes the cameraman, which happens to be an iPad right now, pretty angry because he's trying to center me. Okay, good. So now we're going to drop it to 60 and we're going to do 8 notes. So it's going to down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay, I probably should have given you the heads up. Let's go even slower. Let's go to 50. So, ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So that's the idea of that. I guarantee that some of you guys are doing like these weird picking things where you're not paying attention, and then all of a sudden there's a couple downstrokes in a row, a couple upstrokes in a row. Great thing with alternating picking is if you get off, good, we got a question. I was afraid we were going to go offline. But if you get off with alternating picking, all you have to do is do the same stroke 2 times in a row, and then all of a sudden you've flipped it. You're back on track. You're in phase with a click. You know, you can also, again, tapping your foot and rocking back and forth is, because unfortunately I can't stare at your hand. I can't force you to like correct you in real time and yell at you. So it's, you know, you can practice in front of a mirror maybe. But again, once it takes a second to get comfortable with, but once you get it up and running, hopefully it should feel pretty natural. Question, how important is the tempo? I do fine when down picking, but I'm a complete mess when I try alternate picking. Okay, great. Phenomenal observation, great introspective and willing to admit that you're a complete mess when you try to alternate pick, because that is the first step towards growth. It's just owning up to it. And you basically, the moral of the story is I'm probably doing a tempo that's too fast for you. So if you're not already familiar with the scale, that's an issue. So you need to get the scale under your fingers. My apologies. But the thing is, you should be able to do alternate picking. And it's going to be like pulling teeth, okay? So if you're really good at down, you know, I would say is you want to get the alternate picking under your fingers. So that just means you just need to go slow. And don't be afraid to go painfully slow. Now, I will say this. If you go below 40 beats per minute, it's going to be really hard to accurately divide that click. Students will have trouble with it. So worst case scenario is, you know, if you want, let's say you wanted to play at 35 beats per minute, but it's like painfully slow. Let's just giggles. Let's hear what it sounds like. So that's not too bad, but some people sometimes have a little trouble really subdividing. So worst case scenario, if that's 35, you could always double it to 70 and just play quarter notes. But again, you got to realize that you're going down and then up. So and then as long as that concept is fine with you, you can go slower, you can go to 60 beats per minute. But moral of the story is you need to get to a point. It's like the Matrix. Like if you go slow enough, you can dodge a bullet, you know? So if you can slow it down to a point where you literally have enough time to think about every single move as you go through it, that's the only way to do it. That's what you got to do. And I'd recommend it. You'll thank yourself later. Hopefully you'll thank me too. But thank yourself. Okay? Thanks for the question. I'm going to thank you. Thank you for the question. Great. So ends alternate picking. So, you know, just as you were starting to become a hot mess, we'll get you out of that mess. Okay? So, all the way at the bottom of the page, it says it's in 6/4, but we're not really worried about the time. We're just trying to play through it. Okay? What this is, it's essentially a cage arpeggio, which is just an arpeggio, the triad, 3 notes. It's a G-shape arpeggio, and normally the G-shape arpeggio has 2 notes on the second string. But what we're going to do is we're going to keep it really simple. What we're going to specifically try to accomplish with this exercise right here is the rest stroke. Economy 101, the rest stroke, okay? So the bottom line is, let's say you're going all down. So you like down. Whoever just answered that question, you like downstrokes, right? If you're playing all those notes and you're hopping off every single time, you are losing momentum. Okay? So what you need to be doing is, again, going back to that Wheel of Fortune kind of thing, like hand is just trying to move its way down through the strings, and the pick just happens to flop through. That's where we're going to be going for. And because it's going to be coming through the wrists, in theory, let's say if you have a Strat or, a Les Paul style, you're going to start at like the upper corner of the pickup. And if you do that, your pick should follow a natural arch till you're about 2 inches to the right by the time you get to the bottom, maybe an inch and a half or something. And likewise on the way up. That's going to be really awkward on the way up to get that. But let's just work on it. I should probably teach you the arpeggio. The arpeggio, and you can just do this with open strings too if you want, but it'll sound a little better like this. Hand-eye coordination too. Hand-hand coordination. Pinky on the 6th string, 8th fret. Ring finger is going to go to the 7th fret on the 5th string. First finger is going to go to the 5th fret on the 4th string. And notice my first finger is on the tip. But we're going to play 3 frets in a row on that same one. So what you're going to do at that point is you're going to roll it. Now, in theory, you could just bar it, but you want control of the notes. You don't want to have them all just kind of ringing through. So it's good to get it to move like that. Again, normally there's another note right here, but we're going to skip over that and just have 1 note per string. So our pinky's going to go here. So again, it's going to go 8, 7, 5, 5, 5, 8. And then coming back, you got 8, 5, 5. And so with this one, you'll kind of start barred and roll your finger up. So by the time you get to the 4th string, it's kind of up in the air like that, okay? So again, let's only worry about the down right now. So we're gonna go. So basically what it is, it's kind of like strumming in slow motion. Like when you're strumming, you don't even think about it, but that's exactly what the pick's doing. Your hand is just plowing through and the pick is just holding on for dear life, right? And so that's what we're going for. So it's going to go, okay, one more time, pinky, ring, and again, just let it flop into the string right below. And, at the 6th string, you can't really dig in here, but ideally, you're going to want to rest whether it's on the pickup or on the 6th string as you go through. So you're kind of hovering for the 6th string. And by the time you get to that 4th string, your pick's resting on that. You can I dig in my palm, like right here, basically. Right here, where the camera's showing. Okay, so the pick is physically stopped by each string below. Likewise, coming up. This is going to feel a little weirder. Most people kind of want to compensate with their shoulder and bring it like straight up like that. That's horrible. So bad. Natural reflex, but just a lot of tension. Not great. So coming back up, again, you can kind of start barring your first finger across that 5th fret on strings 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So again, don't even worry about the last couple notes. Let's just stare at our pick right now. So again, flops through, flops through, flops through. Okay, flops through. Then we got 2 more notes. So we're just going to go all the way down and then all the way back up. And we don't even necessarily need to put this in time just yet. The most important thing is that you're observing those rest strokes, okay? So again, it's puberty. Flopping through. Back again, you want the arc. So the pick gives, not your hand. That's something that will probably not feel very natural to some of you at first. You kind of have to literally like hold your hand to hold your hand through this kind of a thing. You know what? That's good for now. If we come back, we'll if we have a little more time, we'll practice that a little more. No, let's give it 2 minutes, a minute and a half. We're just gonna play quarter notes through this one more time. 2 more times. Great. You can practice that faster or slower if you want, but ultimately that's what we're going for. Okay, so the last exercise on the next page, or however it's split up in the PDF, or however Jason's got going today, the last exercise, economy picking, we're going to do 3 notes per string. Okay, the reason why 3 notes per string is a good thing is because it's very consistent with both left hand and right hand synchronization. Sure. That's important. It's good. There's other positions too that are not 3 notes per string, like this one. This one that we just did right here is not a 3 note per string scale. It's a major scale. It's a very classic position. And it's good because it's part of the cage shapes. It has its merits there. But 3 notes per string is really good for right hand stuff, especially when you're, I don't know, saying trying to practice alternating picking. So, or in this case, economy picking. So, what we're going to do, economy picking says just move down towards the string. So if there's 3 notes, essentially you're going down, up, down, and then that third down needs to be a rest stroke. So free stroke, rest stroke. Okay, one more time. Free stroke, rest stroke. Then you push through, and it's going to go down, up, down. Now, up until that point, the scale we already learned, and the 3 notes per note scale, is exactly the same. You got 3 notes here, 3 notes here, 3 notes here, 3 notes here. You really can do some triplets because there's 3. But instead of going 2 and then 3, which you could economy pick that one too, that's going to be a different challenge. We'll call that extra credit. You can explore that in your own time. But if we're trying to stick with 3 notes per string, it's going to go, that's all normal. That's what we practice. Now we're going to slightly shift. So notice my pinky's on the 10th fret. My first finger is going to go to the 8th fret to kind of reposition. And then we got 2 whole steps on the next 2 strings. So you got 8, 10, 12, 8, 10, 12. But again, the right hand is still the same. You're going down, up, down with a rest stroke on that third one. Pushing through, rest stroke. And then when we come back, we'll take a slight pause, and then we'll come back. We'll go up, down, up, down, up. If you get going really fast, it almost feels like your pick's kind of like almost stuck to it, like bubblegum as you're going through it. It's nice. It's a flow. It's really good. So up, down, up with a rest stroke, up, down, up with a rest stroke. So I can't stress that enough. Like if you're trying to do this and you're not utilizing the rest strokes, you are doing yourself a disservice and you're practicing it wrong. Rest strokes are like half the battle for this. That's why we're doing it almost, because you're not going to not lose momentum. But what happens is there's like micro freakouts when you try to do 2 downstrokes in a row, but you don't do a rest stroke. You kind of like hop and like there's all this wasted awkwardness. Okay, so awkwardness is never a waste, but in this case it is. So that's the idea. We're going to go through it. Down, up, down, 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 down, up, down. Up, down, up, down, up, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay? That's the last exercise. We only have a couple minutes, so I'll probably pretty much do this, and then I'll say goodbye. So if you guys got any questions, now would be the time to get them over to Jason. Just want to thank you for hanging out. Jam of the week's done. No more jams of the week. But there's plenty of other jam play courses going on, so worst case scenario is I'll see you next week. I wrote it down too. I want to say it was strumming next week. We'll figure it out when we get there, won't we? So I'm gonna put this on. Actually, no. Let's go a little faster. Let's go even faster. Yeah, that feels about right. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2. So it's written as 8th notes. And again, there's a bar of 4, and then there's a bar of 5, and then there's a bar of 5, and then a bar of 4. That's ridiculous. It's just nonstop 8th notes. I just wanted to group it so that it's like, yeah, okay, we've clearly reached the top. Now we're reconfiguring, because you get the idea. We're just playing on clicks. Again, later you could play it faster and play it on eighth notes. It's the same concept. We're just playing the scale. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so that, I'm already finding that my economy picking isn't as consistent as I would like it to be, especially when I talk. So you just want to take notes of where it's not as strong. Because that's where you need to revisit. Sorry, I screwed up. Here we go. Coming back on. I'll stop talking. We'll give this a couple more times just because I suck. So normally when I practice scales, sorry, I'm spacing out for a second. Normally when I practice scales, I never double down on the top note, and that's what's messing with my head. Let's give it a fair shot. We're going to do it, we'll do it 3 times in a row really quick, and then we'll say goodnight. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. Say hi, Dave Brown's Music, wherever you can find me, Facebook, YouTube's, Gmail, even Dave Brown's Music on jamplay.com. Come say hi. We'll see you next week. I don't know what to play.